Alex Live.
To begin.
Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Social Primate Podcast. It's been a while. How's everybody been doing? Everybody good?
Everybody's good, man.
And that's the voice of Erik Lee. What's up, man?
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
coming. I know, we're kind of location-wise, we're kind of not too far from each other. So
At all.
it's cool, like there's these little like treasures hidden within Bell.
This is a hidden treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this studio.
Yeah, from outside you wouldn't expect this. You're like,
Yeah. You're going to see me talking about this studio at Olivia many, many times.
Hey, that's good, man. You want that. Everybody wants that
Yeah.
cross promotion in a sense,
Yeah, this is awesome.
But thank you again for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
For those people who don't have an idea of who you are yet, do
Mhm.
you mind giving us a little bit of background about what you do?
I am Erik Lee from the city of, I just moved to Maywood, so I can't even see from the city of Bell anymore. But I lived in Bell for
Yeah.
30 years, and I'm super proud of being from Southeast Los Angeles. I think I'm most well known for Olivia Open Mic and the poetry I do and the community organizing I've done over the last 6 years in the city of Bell.
Mm-hmm.
I did the first ever Bell Art Walk in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a part of that. I started Olivia Open Mic in 2012, 13 also. So I've been doing Olivia Open Mic, which is a open mic from my parents' garage in the city of Bell. So it's from a home. It doesn't get more personal and grassroots and intimate than having an open event.
Mhm.
Yeah, where
Right.
you invite all the community and strangers over. And at this space, if you never have been to an open mic, it's basically a space where people sign up, get on the list, and go up and share their talent, their voices, their art. We do try to keep it a safe space, try to have some community guidelines that people should abide to. Because there are a lot of open mics all over LA, but we
Mhm.
kind of try to keep a good, healthy space for all community members.
Dude, that's awesome. Like I mentioned earlier, I've had the chance to follow I've known of Alivio presence for the last, like I said, for 4 or 5 years or so.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Wow.
Me personally, I never had the chance, or not that I didn't have the chance. Maybe I just didn't have the right circumstances or situations to make myself get there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I think it was some close to last month,
Yeah.
right, January.
Last month, January.
Yeah, and I went for the first time, and it was cool, man. It
Yeah.
was a really homey. It's in the home,
Definitely,
so
huh?
it feels homey though. There's like a warm, welcoming feeling to it.
That's cool.
And just hearing the people out there, I don't know them, and I'm sure they don't know a lot of the people that are there either, but they're being vocal and expressive about
Yeah.
their situations. And dude, I don't think it gets more vulnerable than that, as on a
Yeah.
human level, and then being out there and just
Yeah.
expressing yourself.
It's vulnerability on stage. It's humanity just manifesting itself. Throughout the night, you'll feel happy or
Mhm.
frustrated, sad, mad, reflective, depending on what is being shared. You'll go through a different range of emotions. And I think there's just this pulsing connection that happens at Alivio that I think people crave and hunger, and that's why it's been successful and has been going on for so many years. And it's also because we do live in Southeast Los Angeles, and unfortunately we have voids that we need to fill.
Yeah.
So that's why Olivia was created, because every time, I always tell this story, but every time I wanted to go to an open mic or share a poem or listen to people or go to anything that had to do with community and culture, I always had to leave my community.
Yeah.
I always had to hop on the 710 to the 5 or go to DTLA or even Long Beach. I always found myself away. So that kept frustrating me. And I was thinking, why do I always have to leave? What is there for the kids in my community? And that's kind of just how it started, that frustration, and it just developed. And I spoke with somebody I respect a lot. Her name is Ariana Lady Bosco. I call her my mentor now because she's the reason why Olivia started. She told me I had this vision of starting this space in a business, on Gage Avenue, something like that. But I'm but money, rent, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And she's she told me, I think you're overthinking it. Why don't you just start in your house? And I'm like, what? I thought she was crazy. "Do you want me to start like an open mic community cultural center in my house?" She's like, "Yeah. Do you have a backyard?" And I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you have a garage?" And yeah, I have a
Mm-hmm.
garage. She's like, "There it is. Start there." And I was like, "Oh, like we do have a garage. It can happen." And that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
just how it all took off from
Damn.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy how
6
that
years now.
starts. Yeah,
Yeah.
6 years. So
6 years.
how has that been like for you? Like, in just personally in regards to its. I'm sure at this point it's grown since it
Yeah.
got its beginnings till now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's grown a lot. I feel like now we're at the point where we don't need to really promote as much as before.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just has a name already and an entity and a vibe, and people just know about it, and it's crazy because I meet people in different parts of LA or even like Santa Ana, and people are like, "Oh, I've heard of Olivia," and I was like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like people just talk about it, and it's been an amazing journey. And I feel like I've been so privileged to see hundreds, like literally hundreds, probably I don't know how many, if I've reached 1,000 mark already, but people go on the mic, and a lot of people for the first time
Mm-hmm.
share. Like I've witnessed it, and I feel very lucky to be a part of that.
Now, is this something you said you used to go to these yourself, right? You
Yeah.
used to travel to go to these like open mics and stuff. You'll be part of the open mics, right? Like you yourself, I think you mentioned that you're a poet and a writer as well.
Yeah. What's funny about like my path in life right now is that I'm dealing a lot with public speaking, and public speaking used to terrify me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being a high school kid, almost vomiting before a presentation, and hating public speaking.
Yeah.
I hated it. But now, like, all my life has to do with public speaking, and at Olivia, that's all I'm doing. But I, th- what was the question again? I'm kind of
And
getting
in regards to you were going to the open mics and you were.
Yes, that's how it,
Uh-huh.
that's why I brought this up. I told myself I need to start like confronting my fear of public speaking, and
Mm-hmm.
I liked writing poetry. I want to share my poetry in front of people, and because if I knew at that time I was going to become a teacher eventually,
Mm-hmm.
so I needed to get used to this fear and get over it. So it's funny. What's funny is that I looked for open mics in Los Angeles, and
Mm-hmm.
the one that popped up on Google, this was probably like 9 years ago, was an open mic called Speakeasy at the Last Bookstore in downtown Los Angeles.
Okay.
So this story is pretty cool because I told myself I'm gonna go alone. I'm not gonna tell anybody because the thought of having a friend there or a familiar face was gonna get me more nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, this is the first time I'm ever gonna do this, share a poem in front of people. I was like hyped. I was nervous. I was like at the edge of so many emotions. And I look up the address on Google. I get to this space in downtown Los Angeles, and it's blocked off by bouncers. And and I
What?
ask, yeah,
Yeah.
bouncers, and I ask, is this the space for the open mic? And they're like, the open mic. They're like that we're filming a movie. That place probably closed weeks ago. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Like, and I was like, damn, the first time I ever get the courage to share, I can't do it. So I'm walking downtown LA by myself with some poems in my pocket, and I'm like, whatever, I'm already here. I'm gonna just walk around, check some spots out. And I see this huge bookstore, and it got my attention. I'm like, wow, this place is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in, and I start looking at the books and browsing around, and I see a stage to my right, and I see somebody setting up a mic. And then I go ask the person, I'm like, hey, what's going on today? They're like,
Mm-hmm.
we're having an open mic. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, it's called Speakeasy. We just moved here a few weeks ago. And I was like, what the hell? Like, it was like destiny, dude. I just ended up there, and I shared my first poetry in front of Lady Bosco, who was
Mm-hmm.
the same person that gave me that idea, start the open mic in your house. So that's kind of how it started. I started, and I fell in love with just going to open mics all over and just sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it's cool. I think just the idea that you took, like you mentioned there, like she told you like you're like basically she said you're like overthinking them,
Yeah.
and then because you didn't really kind of shift that perspective until somebody kind of like put it in front of you in a sense. It was always there, but it wasn't
Yeah.
just presented to you in a way that just
That
connected.
Yeah.
But you took you took the lack of resources,
Yeah.
and you still went through with it. And I think that's like one of those things that, for the most part, I think a lot of us set our minds to like, oh, I don't have these resources, so I can't do that yet, or I'll wait to do something until I have the space to do it.
Yeah.
But it's like you gotta shift your perspective and like
Yeah,
just see what you can do with what you have. And I
that's
think you took a fucking yeah.
yeah. That's why I always say the quote. Now I said it years ago: when spaces don't exist, create them.
Yeah.
And that's been the issue in our community of Southeast Los Angeles. We lack spaces where like-minded people can come together and just like share their ideas and create other
Mm-hmm.
collectives and spaces. But through Olivia Open Mic, I know for a fact that other movements have grown, like collectives. Shout out to Sela Hip Hop. They always give me props because that's where they met. And they started their own hip hop scene in here in LA.
Yeah.
Like, and other people have met and creating collectives to attack different issues in the community. So that's what for me is like so, like incredible about Alivio, that space brings people together, and then those people talk and create other incredible things outside the garage. That's important to me.
Now, have you always thought of yourself like as a community organizer, like in that sense? Just because you've been involved in like different.
No, not as a community organizer, but like as a kid, like in high school, I was listening to like punk and ska and like System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine, and at the time I had this like this angst and this frustration and like this like F the system mentality. So I was like starting to be involved in activism in high school. Like, so I was starting to take leadership roles in my community, to protest certain things I thought should be protests. As a 16-year-old kid, I was already kind of doing that. Now that I look back at the music, I was like, oh, all of these ideas were like festering in my teenage mind, like, and it was reinforcing my belief that we are strong enough to make changes. So I was trying to make those changes in different levels as a teenager. And then when I went to college, it just kept growing and like being involved in activism. And then more like community oriented work started. Yeah, like I was a part of like Southeast Los Angeles Collective, which was a collective like that was pretty strong, and we did the first ever Bell Art Walk. And then I created another collective called Proyecto Vecindad, where we did like Know Your Rights, seminars. We did other arts activities. We worked with Ciclavia. We did good work. And the ultimate goal has always been to open a community cultural center, like somewhere out like on Florence or Gage, a space where all the community can go and teach each other and like have a studio and do events. Like that's always been the goal. But when it comes to that, the issue is always money. Because
yeah, of course,
money, and like we've run into certain issues. We've done a lot of fundraising, but people don't want to loan out a space for like 6 months, and they want to loan out a space for like 2-3 years. I'm like, we don't have the money for that.
Yeah,
so that's a
course.
constant issue.
Yeah, no, that's what you say. You take what you got. Unfortunately, because I mean, for example, I've been to another location. What is it called? What was the place called? Oh man,
Where at?
it's called. It's like a poet. It's like a poetry magazine. It's called Dryland. Oh no, I think at this time it's changed names. Fuck, I'm so sorry. I don't remember if you're listening.
Is that around here?
It's in like Boyle Heights area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they used to hold like open mics too. But again, it was more like focused on people of color.
Okay.
Trying to bring those safe spaces as well.
Yeah.
But similar to that, I saw how she started her thing too. Like it just started off with some online blog that was basically like different articles.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming to an actual book. So it's like
That's
just
so cool.
taking those resources and just keep going and making that ball roll.
Yeah. And I feel like you're doing that here, in this, like we're in a garage right now. If you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Incredible the things that can happen inside a garage, right? So we're in a studio right now, and this studio gives space to about 8 other channels, you said?
Yeah.
So that in itself is incredible because it's streaming out to a greater audience, and I appreciate you for having me right now because I'm able to get my word out to other people as well. And this is kind of just a ball that keeps on rolling, and from this, somebody out there's gonna see it and be like, oh, I'm gonna go to Olivia, I heard about it here, or oh, I'm gonna check out Social Primate, or that's how it happens, is supporting each other, supporting people in your community.
Now, for yourself, I know you mentioned. I don't know if you want to touch base on this, but I know you said you're like an educator, right?
Yeah.
Like, with that
High
being
school.
said, like high school, So with that being
Yeah.
said, you're in for in a real sense, you're in a way molding, like,
Yeah.
or you're putting information in front of these students
Yeah.
and hoping that they take the information and perceive it differently. I've had high school teachers that up until this day, 10 years after high school, I'm still like, I remember what he said, and it's those words that made me either decide whether to do something that I know I should do, whether I shouldn't do it. And it's interesting, because
Yeah.
you have that influence, and you're gonna have that influence moving forward, or them moving forward.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you approach like that based on how you were, 16, listening to Rage and punk rock and just saying like, fuck the system?
I feel like I encourage students to question and be rebellious when it's purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when they hear me say those things, they're like, what the hell? Like, my teacher is okay if I don't want to stand up and pledge the flag? Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's a lot of teachers, unfortunately, still, like, that force their students to get up, stand up, and pledge, or they threaten them with, like, a bad grade. And I'm like, technically, that's illegal. And this is the United States where they have freedom of speech. So I feel like I try to take an approach to educating my students, to letting them really develop their thoughts. Like, if you don't want to do certain thing, why don't you want to do it? Like, it has to be something purposeful too. It's not like, oh, I want to have my headphones on and my hoodie on and turn my back to you. Like, that's not purposeful.
Yeah.
But I encourage them to think for themselves, and I do events there at the school too. Like, I do like this big poetry event twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
So for many of these students, like, sharing themselves, like, is very difficult. But, like, I've seen so many students do it, and it's crazy. I don't know if any research has been done, but it's contagious. Like, once one student shares a poem and is vulnerable, all of a sudden 10 more like, I want to do it too. And I'm like, what the? And I've seen this contagious, like, manifestation among students, and even at Olivia. Like, I see it all the time, and I was like, I wonder what it is. I don't know. But I encourage them to be artistic and to share. And being a teacher is, like, right now is, like, it's always been tough, but I feel like now, like, there's just so much emphasis on standardized testing and things that are not going to change these kids' hearts and minds. And I feel like I try to, like, dig into the core of their humanity and remind them who they are and what's going on around them.
Yeah, no, I can get what you're saying. Like, it's a quick example. Like, I have a son. He's 8. He's gonna be 8 this year.
Wow.
So
Congrats.
yeah, thanks. So like, I remember being 8, and I remember what was being presented to me, and a lot of the stuff was just having fun, and it's cool. But I did feel like I didn't have the greatest role model, at least in the sense that I hate to throw my dad under the bus here, but I'm gonna throw him under.
No.
But it's just the communication was just different. There was 2 different cultures. He comes from Mexico. I'm thrown into this culture here, and I don't. I wanted to touch base on
so
after
that
this.
disconnection of, like,
the culture identity. I don't know what you want to call it.
also probably machismo too. Like, I feel like a lot of Mexican dads, like macho dads, they provide, then they feed us, but they don't feed our hearts or our emotion, because they've been conditioned as well by their own fathers to not show emotion and not be vulnerable. And I feel like I see that a lot in my friends, and I have a lot of guy friends, and they open up to me in ways that I'm like, what the hell? Like, why don't you talk like this to the other homies? Because they're going to call me a bitch. And I'm like, but that's human shit. Like,
he's crying too. That guy's crying too at some point.
Yeah, that fool's crying in the shower by himself. He's going to get a heart disease because he doesn't open up. Shit. Like, be honest. Be who you are.
No, it's true. And so that's why I try manifesting, like, little by little into my son, like,
that's awesome.
Try to express yourself, you shouldn't, how can I say it? I mean, express yourself, because it's healthy to express yourself, whether you're having negative feelings or positive ones, right? And that's not something I had them teach me. Sorry.
Yes.
So it's like I have to figure things out on my own, and it wasn't until later in life that I got more comfortable with certain things or fundamentals that I needed in life, in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
So like you said, I try to ask like the questions like, hey, why do you think this and this happened? Like he was watching Star Wars the other day, and I try to go in further like, hey, so what do you think about Anakin Skywalker? If people haven't seen it, he kills a bunch of little kids, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I just rewatched it and I was like, oh,
he just murders them in cold blood.
Kids,
And I told him like, what do you think about that? And he's like, oh, I think it's wrong. I was like, and I used to try to question him like, why do you think it's wrong? You know, like try to just get his mind a little like, like, oh fuck, mind fuck, you know, and
develop it.
And obviously he's still not into that. He's like, I don't know, Dad.
He's like, just leave me alone.
Yeah, just leave me alone. And I'm like, all right, fine. But I got him, I got the conversation going in his head.
That's cool, man.
So I think, you being in that position where you have to tailor to what these, new kids or the new generation are going to be.
The TikTok generation.
What is it called? TikTok?
TikTok. TikTok generation.
Yeah, dude, that is so weird, man. Just it
is hardcore.
Yeah, but it's.
Yeah. I remember being addicted to MySpace.
Yeah.
But like I had to wait to go on a computer at home. Like these kids have their addiction like on the phone, in their hand 24/7.
I can't imagine being in high school at this age, digital age with I mean, we had it a little bit. I had the fucking Razor phone still, Sidekick, but there was no like full-fledged internet on the phone,
I had like a little cheap smartphone.
Yeah. It's like now people can pull up their phone and everything. I can imagine how it's crazy in school. It's just trying to.
Yeah, that's probably the worst thing. The phones, like trying to manage that. That's the toughest. Like they're honestly they're addicted. Like I don't know any other way to say it. They're compulsive. Like they have to. They don't even notice it. Sometimes they're like, oh shit, it's in my hand. Like sorry. Like they don't even notice it sometimes.
Damn.
It's just so automatic. Like the reflex. Phone. Eyes on phone.
Now, like, do you think, like, being in school, like, what do you see there a lack of? I know, like, during our time, it was, like, the arts, music, that kind of stuff was being cut down. And
it's
even
still, man.
Yeah?
I think that's one of the biggest, to me, one of the biggest disservice for our generation right now is lack of arts and trades.
Mm-hmm.
And like the one that I've been talking about a lot is lack of comprehensive sex education.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to me that we're still in 2020 and we cannot just have a regular conversation with young adults about their bodies. Like, cause God forbid, like moms and dads are gonna raise hell.
Yeah.
Like, and it's unfortunate because they're having sex. Like they are. Like whether you want to talk to them about it or not. So you keep them in the dark and they don't know about consent. They don't know how to protect themselves.
Yeah.
They still think women pee from like the vagina. Like they don't they just don't have any awareness. Mm-hmm. And they're out there like doing
it's because there's a stigma.
Doing this and doing that.
With that.
It's funny that it's still a stigma in this country when we sell sex like 24/7 in every medium, music video, every movie, but yeah, we can't have a normal conversation about sex.
Yeah.
I lived in Spain for about half a year. And over there, they're way more open about like the body, nudity, like sex. It's just not like some grotesque, crazy thing like it is here. I feel like we still live in the Puritan times sometimes. I'm like, everybody came through dysfunction, sex, and then, like, why can't we just teach these kids about it?
Yeah, I mean, for sure that's one of them because,
They ask me stuff, and I tell them straight up, like, because I'm reading a book called Henrietta Lacks right now, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which is an incredible book about this black woman whose cells are immortal. Like, she's the reason why we can test on human cells. Through her, we were able to create chemotherapy. Her cells were the first ones in outer space. They use her cells as, like, guinea pigs to test how anything was created. And in that book, it talks about how she got cervical cancer, and it talks about like the vagina. And the kids, they're 10th graders, they ask me like, what's a cervix, or what's this, and like, what's that? And I think a lot of teachers would take that opportunity to be like, oh, this is English class, we're not gonna. But I'm like, I tackle it straight on. I'm like, let's put a photo up there. Let's talk about this function. Like, and I feel like they really appreciate that honesty. And if you don't make it weird,
Yeah.
most of the time they don't make it weird either. They like if you just are very like upfront and honest with them, you will get their attention. But if you like are dumb about it and you're insecure about it, the kids catch on, and then the boys are gonna start making jokes and saying dumb shit, and like you gotta just cut it in the root, and like they'll catch on. Like I've seen that, like they can be mature. They can be mature.
It does exist.
Yeah, it does exist.
Yeah, I mean, another thing, at least from what my experience here in high school, I did go to Bell and to Elizabeth Learning Center.
Oh, you went to Bell?
Yeah, I went to Bell from 9th grade to like half of 10th grade, and then from there I went to ELC.
Oh, okay.
So I had like my toes dipped into both schools, and
yeah.
from just right now, I don't know how the culture is, but then it was completely different. There was like two different sides of what students could and couldn't be, and it was weird.
In Bell?
Yeah, I mean, well, Bell was a lot. It was a lot rowdier than Elizabeth
Oh,
Learning
really?
Center. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Elizabeth Learning Center was more.
It's probably smaller.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
smaller. Everybody knew each other. It's like a little
Yeah.
mini city. But I forgot where I was going with this. Where was it going with
There's
this?
so many like trends in Bell. Like we had the dark side.
Oh, that's where I
where
used
all
to
the-
hang out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too. Where all the skaters, punk rockers, like metalheads hung out, and then the other side was like all
Yeah,
the
like the
paisas, geeks, not geeks,
jocks.
got paisas, jocks, cholos, like everything over there.
Yeah. It was it was a fun time in school. Definitely learned a lot from there. That's where I was going to. But the thing that I noticed myself had trouble once I got out of school was definitely like financial education.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
missed that one.
Oh,
That's a disservice.
Yeah.
We don't
Oh,
teach
right,
them
right.
financial literacy at all.
Exactly. And I think again, I didn't fucking get a handle on my own type of thing till a few years ago, and
Yeah.
and it took so much
Yeah.
effort and
Yeah.
just constraint on my own part
Yeah.
to try to meet my fucking goals. You know?
Yes.
And yeah, I don't think that's like
Yeah.
nobody knows about investing. There you see
Yeah.
stocks unless you kind of like tinker in them, but
Yeah.
for the most part you see them and you don't.
Just,
Yeah, like,
it's
man.
another language.
Yeah, you skip the whole business area on Google News. You
Yeah.
move on to health or something.
Yeah, you don't realize like, oh shit, I can be making money off of this business area on this website. Like,
Yeah.
you just see it as something foreign, like that's not for you. Like, and it wasn't until a few years that I actually was like, oh, what the hell, I got it, like in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like I guess we both did. I didn't know the importance of having assets compared to just what's the other word? There's assets.
Cash or
No, like just stuff that doesn't bring you.
like luxuries,
Yeah, something
superficial
like that.
materials.
There's a word for it. I can't remember right now, but yeah, it's
Bullshit.
the whole thing that you you want to have those assets so that you're making some income, passive income, or flowing income. I think it's one of those
Yes.
two. One is like
Okay,
being at
passive,
work
yes.
and spending your time to get paid
Yeah.
instead of just being out here right now and having something in the background working
Yeah.
for you.
Yes.
And that's people don't know that.
And we live in an age where that's becoming more and more easier with the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Through all like Instagram, YouTube, and all
Yeah,
that.
you just put up a shirt.
Amazon.
Like I recently put up a shirt, started selling some shirts, and I
Cool.
don't do anything. I just upload the artwork. They
Tight.
take care of everything, and they throw a few bucks towards
Cool.
my way. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
still
awesome.
something that's still being produced. Word of it is getting out, and in the long run, you expect there to be a little.
Yeah. Working smart, right?
Yeah.
Not hard. Working smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so financial literacy and emotional intelligence. Like
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us still don't have a grasp in how to like really respond to our emotions. And
Yeah.
it could be unhealthy.
And and that's something I've heard that the state of California wants to tackle, social emotional intelligence in the next few years. That's what I was hearing. But definitely like lack of comprehensive sex ed, no financial literacy, lack of the arts and social emotional intelligence are things that in the public education system right now we are failing our students, and it's because of the pressures of standardized testing. Like we're pressured to get this data on this standard, but yet we're not tackling the whole human being. Like
Yeah. Right.
and I think it's like so unfortunate because these are literally young adults that are the future of our country, and we should teach them financial literacy. I think it's criminal to put a fat loan application document in front of an 18-year-old and tell him, sign it if you want to go to college. If you don't sign it, you don't have enough money. These poor kids sign their life away at the age of 18, not understanding most of the language, not understanding interest, any of that. And then it messes them up. And it's so
Tell me
sad.
about it.
It's sad, man. Because, I mean, I got not too many loans compared to other friends, but I could have invested money that I got, like, back in the day, but I just was not literate. Like, I was just spending, spending. That's all I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking, hey, I can put this somewhere here in this little stock called Netflix, and it's gonna, like, grow. Like, I never, nobody ever talked to me about those things.
I mean, of course, I remember as soon as I turned 18, I got my first credit card. What did I do? I bought the fucking newest console. I think at the time it was like I don't know what it was. Some Nintendo console. Yeah. A bunch of games. And I was like, yeah, I'm rich, dude. Yeah. And it's because, again, like, you're giving an 18-year-old, like, a couple $1,000. Yeah. And you don't know. That's the first time you ever have that much money at your disposal. What are you going to do? Yeah. You're going to buy whatever the hell you feel like you need or your wants,
Dude, I didn't think about what a credit score was and meant, like, and the significance of it until I think I was, like, 26.
Damn.
I'm 31 now. And the first time I ever, like, I'm going to get Credit Karma, and I'm going to look at my credit score. What's a credit score? What is it used? I think I was around 26 years old. And around that time is when I started getting involved in, like, looking at stocks and, like, investing and, like, learning how to save smart and learning about different savings accounts that can get me more return. It was around, and I'm like, damn it, if I would have done this at the age of, like, 19. Yeah. Like, all those years of accumulated wealth, like, but I think most of us start late because we're not taught early.
Yeah. Now, do you think that's based on, like, the communities that we're in?
Yes. Yeah. So I think one of it is, that's why we need school to do it, because schools have more resources and they should know better. But we live in a community of immigrants, and they're just trying to get by, and probably they're working lower paying jobs, so they're just trying to put food on the table, and they don't have time or probably means to put money away to invest because they're just trying to make ends meet. So these parents that are around us that are hard workers, they don't have the financial literacy to pass it down to us either. So where do we get it from, And I feel like that's where you start building that generational wealth, when you start teaching that knowledge and passing it on. But a lot of our community is immigrants or first generation.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you get to Downey, you get a little bit more second generation. Once you get to Whittier, go a little more second, third.
Yeah, and then they start forgetting about the cutting ones.
Yeah, and then once you get, like, over there, you're just white. Like, even if you're like Gonzalez, you don't even identify with Latino or anything.
Now, you mentioned, like, the standardized testing. I know that was a huge thing. I think it's always been, like, a huge thing. I know. I don't think they do the Casey anymore, right? The Casey exit exam. Or...
They actually, like, banned it. Like, I think the last class or the second to last class to take it, and then they got rid of it. They said it was just unfair. Like, it was an unfair test. So imagine all those poor kids that failed and all the crap that happened to them, and then they ban it.
Dude, what the hell?
Yeah, man.
I mean, this is something like
it's like weed legalization. All those people in prison right now.
Yeah, now they're
and now all the white folks are making all this money.
All the money.
And all the black folks are criminals and in jail.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy. Huh?
It's against us. It's against us for the most part. But again, it's just education, just trying to, like, something that you mentioned earlier about related to the standardized testing is, like, they're only testing one sort of intelligence, when they're not testing the whole human, I think, or you said the whole person.
Yeah. How can you test somebody's emotional intelligence or empathy? I don't think there's a standardized test for that.
Yeah, I think something I read a while back was, I think this is the correct one, but it's saying how there's different types of intelligences. And here it says, describe 9 types, and it's naturalist, which is nature smart, musical, sound smart, logical, mathematical, number reasoning, existential, interpersonal, bodily, kinesthetic, and linguistic.
Yeah.
So, it's like, each and every one of us will fall under one of these smarts. Like,
Yeah.
you can be smarter in English and writing, but I can,
Yeah.
dance great or something. I don't know. But, we all have different intelligences that can prove ourselves in different areas, but it doesn't mean that we all need to fall into a specific criteria. And you said that's what standardized testing kind of tries to do, right? Tries to narrow everybody. Yeah, like lump everybody into one.
And I don't know. I feel like as teachers, we haven't banded together enough to really like question and fight against standardized testing, because I've never met one single teacher that's like, yeah, standardized testing is in March and April. Woo!
Yeah.
Like, teachers do not like standardized testing. In Chicago, they had the opt-out movement where teachers and parents banded together and they said, screw these standardized testing. We are not going to send our kids to school. And they had no way to fight back. Like, kids not going to school, the school's going to lose money. So that was their protest. And I feel like sometimes I think, like, who's making these tests and who's making money off of these tests? Like, at the end of the day, somebody's making money somewhere down the line to write these tests. And I have a hard time thinking that somebody's not making money off of these tests. And then, like, lobbyists are passing laws in the educational code, whatever, that these things needs to be passed. Like, I'm like, says who? And right now we live in a very different time where I feel like we forgot how valuable trades are. It's valuable to learn plumbing. It's valuable to learn electricity. Like, shit, like this stuff is important. It's like everyday essentials that we end up having to call somebody to come and come to our house, but like, just trades. I feel like all of that has been cut. Like, there's no metal shop, no wood shop. There's no culinary classes there, and the kids ask all the time, like, why don't we learn about real stuff, like taxes, or like knowing how to buy a car? And I'm like, fuck, like, that's what I've been asking since high school too. Like,
yeah, dude.
It's just our system in general. Like, I think we're like number 52 in like the country. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As a nation, the United States, I think we're number 52. In our educational system, and it's just ironic because we're the most powerful, richest country ever. Yet we have the most incarcerated people in the world, and like the worst schools, like in Washington. That's ironic.
Yeah.
Literally by the White House, the worst schools in the country.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, then you have people like that's a lady's name, Betty DeVamo or something. That
she knows nothing about education.
Department of Education.
Yeah.
It's like,
but that's all because of, Trump, like all of that, and that administration is.
Man.
Yeah.
It's just,
we'll see what happens.
That's why it's cool to just, like, bringing it back to Olivia, like, just the fact that there's a space that you created the space, and like you said, there was a void. That's what you said. There was a void.
There was a void.
And then it wasn't until you filled that void that you started seeing that there was people that were looking for that to, to come to it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, people want to know this information. It's just they need a place where they feel comfortable, or like they feel like they have like a collective needs.
Yeah, before Olivia, I did a test run. I did an event in August 2012, and it was called Micrófono Libre. Like, we couldn't figure out a really good name for it. But at this event, there was like 80 people that showed up, and that's when I saw there's
80 people. The first one.
The first one, it wasn't in Olivia yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's when I thought there's a need, and I need to fill it. And I took like a few months off, and then I thought about a vision. I thought about like a logo. I thought about a name, what it represents. And then in 2013, in January, I started Alivio. And it was like huge. And then we had Luis Rodriguez Jr., who is like the most famous like Latino writer, poet. Go to Alivio for like I think the first or second month.
Yeah.
And then he just kept going.
Yeah, this one here. Yeah, based on this article.
He became like, he was like my hero, like in like senior year of high school, and then like college. I wrote like, I did projects on this guy, and like I looked up to him because he actually made me feel like, oh, I could be a poet, or I deserve to be in the pages of a book. And and then he was eating nachos in my kitchen one day. It's just been crazy, full
Dude,
circle.
that's cool, man.
Yeah, it's been an incredible ride.
Now, where do you see it? Where do you see it going? Like, do you see it? Do you see it like going outside of the garage, like, or is that like just the space that what Olivio is?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have asked me like, "Oh, I have this space where you can do Olivia now," and like people from like the city have asked me, like people from different cities have told me you can have it at our city hall, or things like that, like
Uh-huh.
at our space, and I just feel like that would just kind of just be contradictory to
Yeah.
what Alivio has become
Mm.
and what it represents.
Yeah.
It represents filling a gap. It represents when spaces don't exist, create them. It is just a real manifestation of what you can do from your own home, like, you know. And I have had Alivio like in the Bell Art Walk, and I do Alivio at the LA River. So I'll take that like that feeling, that vibe, that entity, and I'll put it in different spaces. But for me to say like, oh yeah, permanently now we're gonna move, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as my parents put up with us, like
Oh fuck yeah.
at the end of the day, like my parents are like, I mean, they could have been like, no, like
Yeah.
we're not gonna let you do anything. They're incredible. They're super supportive, and they enjoy it too. And they get involved, and they cook food and they sell it from the kitchen, and people go in there and meet them and vibe with them. And then if people don't want to be in the garage listening to a poem, they can go to the vendors, purchase some things, hang out. It honestly, a lot of people sometimes just go to kick it like out on the outside and just talk to other people, like
Yeah.
just to go hang out, you know.
There's one thing I noticed. Everybody's like so nice, dude. I was walking. I forgot. Is it like I forgot what street it's on, but I'm walking. It's the middle of the night, and everybody's just like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Oh man, I don't even know these people." And like, yeah, it's going this way, guys. And like, dude, everybody was just so nice. And again, just
That's awesome.
being in that, like, you know, it's a little like
Yeah.
cozy, and there's
Yeah.
people. You're close to people and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's cool, man. I personally I really enjoyed it. And then you have
That's
like
awesome.
local artists or like
Yeah.
you know artists from the neighborhood or
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
neighboring
featured
cities.
artists, like visual artists. That day we had Dupe Junkie, and
Mhm.
and he has been doing art for like 30, 40 years, I want to say, and he put up all his artwork. It was amazing. And we have different artists that go feature their art.
Uh-huh.
So if you're listening right now and you're a visual artist and you want to display your artwork somewhere, you can do it at the Alivio Garage. Just hit me up on at Alivio Open Mic on Instagram. Yeah, I feel like I've just come to call myself like a voice builder, voice facilitator, because every time I'm always promoting somebody.
Mhm.
Like, I don't remember the last time in the last 6 years that I didn't go 1 week without promoting somebody else's voice, somebody else's art. Like, I'm in the business of bringing people up, like, in any way I can. And for me, that's like so gratifying to see that kid that's 17 and scared and goes up on the mic and shares something incredible and maybe cries. Like, for me, that's like the most gratifying thing, seeing people be the most authentic versions of themselves in front of others. Like, that's gratifying for me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that's like the start. At least, you know, the times I've had to conquer little fears on my own, like you know, whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just made me understand myself a little better. You know,
Mhm.
and just to give validity to my experiences and to
Yeah.
understand that there's somebody out there that can relate to them. You know,
Yeah,
and
well said. Yeah.
and you know, it just there's something liberating about it. There's definitely
Definitely.
something about it.
Yeah,
You know, and-
there's like this, like people get like this high off of it,
Yeah.
like just the rush, the anticipation, going up there, sharing it, doing it, people like praising you. The crowd of Alivio like is like sometimes, like last month it was extra hype, like
Yeah.
they were just so excited about everything and anything, and that feels so good, like
Yeah.
when people are like that, you know, and you're that first timer and it's the first time and you're like received like that. People love it, you know. People feel accepted and they feel good and they feel like welcomed, you know. So I've always said it's not a competition. It's not about who has the better this, the better that. Like, it's about just go up there and share your truth. You know? Yeah, that's what it's about.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
so cool, man. And before we start wrapping this up, you know, how the idea of making Olivia like, you know, I hope I'm using the right word, inclusive to everybody. Was that just like it's from the beginning? Was that something that you wanted just to help push?
At the very beginning, I was just doing it like a straight up open mic with like not a lot of intention of making it like a safe space. I guess I wasn't really concerned about it. I was just thinking like it's an open mic, like people go and share anything, like, and you got to be ready for it. But then the more I thought about it, there was some things that happened along the way, and I'm like, at the end of the day, it is my parents' house, so I need to put some guidelines in place where everybody's gonna feel good and safe, and you know, and I'm not homophobic or racist or sexist or like I don't have these ideas of oppression towards people. So I would like to have a space in my own home that validates and values all people of all identities and cultures. Like, to me, that makes me feel good. And I tell people, like, if you have something crazy you want to share and it's like doesn't abide by these standards, go share it at like the other 100 open mics all over LA, you know? But at the end of the day, it is my parents' home, and I want it to be like a good vibe, you know? I don't want people up there going to say like, F these type of people, because it'll just start other crap, and I don't need that.
Yeah.
My parents don't need that either.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah.
You know, if people want to, I know you have one, I think, the 28th of this month, right? Or is it 28th?
Yeah,
One
the
of those
28th,
days.
next Friday, we have another event, and we're going to have 3 featured artists, Sneaky, Matadillo, and Woodsy, who is the first ever feature from London. Like,
oh, shit.
yeah, I've never, people people have hit me up from all over the United States to go to Alivio. It's weird. Like, people have hit me up from, like, the dirty South, like Alabama, from New York.
Yeah.
Like, can I go to your event, blah, blah, blah. And I tell them, so it's a garage, and we're about this and that. And sometimes they're like, oh, what? It looks lit. Like, it's a garage. I'm like, yeah. So they're looking for other things. But, like, this is the first guy from London. I checked out his page, and I was like, oh, well, I really like his stuff. I was like, let's do it. First time ever. He's going to be here from London.
Damn.
So it's going to be cool. Woodsy Graham, at Woodsy Graham. And then we're going to have the first ever visual artist that's a high school student. She's actually my student.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
so she's going to feature her art in the garage, and she's super excited and nervous. So I'm very excited about that, to have a high school student feature their artwork. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Dude, I mean, but it's like those little things that just that small opportunity that you know gets ingrained in you, and you're like, dude, I want to keep doing this, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, it's awesome. I think it's awesome what you do, man.
Thank you.
But you know, again, if people want to go to the Alivio open mic, what's the best place to find the website or your location?
Alivio, it's spelled Alivio. So you can look up Alivio Open Mic on Instagram at Alivio Open Mic. If you want to follow my personal account, that's at Erik with a C, Erik Etzli, Eztli. I'm also a poet, a spoken word artist, and I do writing workshops whenever anybody wants them. I just released a book titled From My Blood. It's my first book of poetry. It took me about 2 years to finally like publish it and do all that. So I'm gonna like start putting that out there more now, and start going to different events and having my book in different places and selling it. Yeah, getting the word out. So it's been a ride. Yeah.
Dude, well, I hope you keep doing it.
Thank you.
And I'm very much looking forward to it. I'll be there, man. February 28th,
awesome.
I'll be there.
Cool, man.
It's cool, man. Again, people, thank you guys for tuning in. And this was Social Primate. Thanks,
Thank you so much. Peace.
See ya.
Peace out, everybody.